And what happened in this game?
Um, just the one gas rule, and then God, what did happen in this game? It was a quick minute ago. It is still today, obviously, but
You played a lot of games today,
I
so it's yeah.
I started doing a thing that I believe Buddy said Rogue and Dark do is where they take the first energy at the natural goes through tumor, and then the second energy at the main also goes through creep tumor. So I was practicing doing that
And is
and
that to spread
immensely
from the
improved.
main base, that second energy in the main, or is it like that queen has
Correct.
walked to the natural and kind of become a injecting?
No, it spreads in the main, and then afterwards it walks to the third. And by the time it's there, the third will have finished, and it lines up really nicely for the third round of energy.
Oh, that's interesting. I know like some people will spread the creep in the main. I mean, if there's not a Reaper build, I don't really bother until quite a bit later. Definitely getting the first tumor on the natural is really nice, but as long as we're being overall reasonably efficient with what we're doing, that should be good. And why are my plus and minus keys not working? Oh, because you're in control of the replay. No worries. I am so simple.
Do you want me to sign out and just restart it while you're the host or whatever?
No, it's all good. No, you take us through it, dude. So I mean, this is good because this is, you know, the best sort of theory. Honestly, like learning to look at your own games. So I want you to just zoom through at your own pace and just, you know, find points where you think you can improve or a main point of contention. Try to just find a high priority and, you know, just do some thinking out loud on where you think you can fix things up, whether, you know, and do it at your own pace. You can go look at fights and focus on that. You can look big picture and 8 times and just look at kind of the overall flow, or you can really go mega detailed and check like supply points for tiny little things. Totally up to you.
Yeah, that worker was really annoying. I hated that because that's the first time I've ever actually really experienced that where they blocked it, and then he also hugged right up next to the gas, and so I couldn't take the gas either, which was really cool. I like I said, this guy's like diamond or master, so I've never experienced something like that before. That was
Cool.
really interesting.
So in terms of theory, this is a really good point, something like that, right? So it's like, hey, wait a second. What do you do when that happens? So this is like, you've just hit a point of, I saw something, I've never seen it before. I don't know what to do. This is the eternal state of StarCraft, right? Well, sometimes we get 5, 6 games in a row with something we, you know, nothing
Yeah.
really surprising us, but it's pretty rare. So what do you do?
You're engaging the opponent.
In that situation, I
A
believe
new
I
queen
just
has
lose
emerged.
the drone, and then yeah, I took it at the fourth instead.
So what's really important is you need to actually go back and pause at the very beginning of that problem. This is the structure of, we found a problem. You need to program a response, right? So it's like, oh, well, I think I just kind of took a drone, took a fourth. We want it to be like, what is the problem? What is the first point where you identified you saw the problem? Because we need to program this so the next time you see that thing, you instantly know what it is. No figuring stuff out on the fly, right? It's, oh, so was it the NCV standing there? So find whatever point it is where you realize that, and I want you to kind of tell us the exact sequence of what's going on.
Okay. So what am I looking at when it happens?
Your drones are under attack. My babies.
So you can already pause.
So
Right?
yeah, I had a bunch of free time there where I could have taken this. I can't ping for some reason. I think it's because my alt is binded to something else, but the extractor that my drone isn't at.
Mm-hmm.
There was a good free point of time where I could have taken it there.
So this is something. Open up your notes. I linked it to you on Discord. So that's just one thing, right? But that isn't everything. So the important thing here is it's so easy to kind of gloss over problems in StarCraft, and programming really detailed responses, like not just one little thing, but everything, is huge because we want to really look at these situations and just make sure we kind of map everything else out. And it could just be 1, 2, 3 things, but have you got the notes open?
My computer's.
All right. Maybe you can open it on your phone or something, because your internet seems to be struggling as you tab out.
Yeah. Okay, so it's open on here now, I guess.
Okay. So you notice at 2 minutes 10, SCV attacks your drone. So I'd love you to even rewind to 2 minutes 10 the moment you saw it, because it's important to freeze frame at that point and then visualize. And this is what I'm constantly doing when I look at games, and it's what pros are constantly doing. What's going on? So obviously, if your computer's super laggy, you know, having the document open probably doesn't really help you at all, unless it's on your phone or something like that, in which case that's fine. You can look at it later. You just have to use your brain.
Sure.
But it's really important to go, okay, cool. So you were saying the SCV attacks your drone, right? And your response in future is going to be to take a gas, or what do we do immediately at this moment?
I would say take a gas, send a worker. There's no worker there. Is there one building? Send a worker from my main to my fourth, I guess. And then with the Reaper there, is it worth sending the Lings over to the third? Or should I just take them to the fourth with the worker that's going to build the base there? I think that might be a better idea. So yeah, that's what I would do. I would take the gas, take a worker from my main or natural, send it to my fourth, and then with that worker, I'll send the 4 Zerglings that I have to protect it.
Awesome. So what else is happening at this point in the game that you might forget because you're just doing all that? So what's some normal macro stuff that you have to do right now in the game?
Queens are pretty far. I'm at 26. I don't know. That's what it is. Ling speed.
And pull off gas as well, right?
So, yeah, that as well. Yeah, for sure.
Do you normally go ling speed after your hatchery?
No.
Okay, cool. So yeah, just definitely that's gonna get forgotten, right? So that a lot of the time, a little response like this, it might be like, oh, that's happening right at a point where you would normally build an overlord, and you do a really sick response, but you forget the overlord until you're like well supply blocked, or you leave on gas for an extra minute and you've got like, you know, heaps of gas sitting around for no reason. There's these little mistakes that flow on. So what this gives is just an appreciation for like, oh shit, I gotta hit like a tight little sequence here, right? Okay. So we're just gonna write, remember to pull off gas and start ling speed, right? Because it's already time to do that as well. And it's natural. Maybe you go to 130 gas because you're busy pulling that drone and stuff. But what's important there was that moment of indecision. Send lings to the fourth, or do I go to the third and try to help the drone on the extractor? There's that indecision.
And that indecision is gone now.
Yeah, because you made a decision outside of the game. And we're still not sure. Is that the perfect decision? Maybe, maybe not. Who cares? It's confident though. Clean. Yeah. And it's pretty good, dude. It's pretty good. So one little thing, and it depends on the map and it depends on what they do with the Reapers. But the reason why the Reaper SCV block is really weak, usually, is we can actually send lings to enemy natural if they keep blocking, right? If they keep blocking the third base. We also can potentially split off a ling or two to kill the SCV as well, because that SCV, oh, free SCV kill. Let's get that. So the thing is, if the Reaper's just hanging around hitting your extractor, that and the SCV, right? You just click your ling straight across the map. Now, if they're trying to intercept your other base, we could try and fight them, or we could just always click them across the map. And even if they chase the lings and damage them, it's like, oh, well, you can cancel the extractor, build it there. Or they run up with the Reaper and the SCV, they block the other base. Oh, that's fine. Cancel the extractor, build the other base, or build this base. You've got two options, right? Now, we did forget one thing. Cancel extractor, right? That's one last thing.
Mm.
Cancel extractor to keep that drone alive wherever possible. Now,
For
also,
sure.
we don't need to hop in the extractor straight away, right? So you actually, if you get down here early enough and you see an SCV there, you might be able to attack it and chase it off the spot. Or at least get some damage on it. So you don't really need to do it till the Reaper arrives, which we see on this pretty small map. It's going to be about, what, 215, maybe 220, something like that. So just a small little tidbit there, as we could see, if you'd noticed that, you could have got the first hit off, started beating that SCV in a fight, and who knows? By the time the Reaper arrives, you might even just be like, oh, I cleared you off, and now I get to take my third.
Okay, that's fair. Okay.
Just a little option. But overall, we've like mapped out a little set of details there. Awesome. So now looking at the game, check it. You've forgotten link speed. You've forgotten to pull off gas. You haven't sent a drone to the third yet. You can see just how much tighter this would be the next time you execute it because we've mapped it out. And StarCraft is so filled with these like spanner in the works type maneuvers, right? Your opponent's not doing a huge thing here. It's one SCV and the Reaper they were going to build anyway. But if we let it, this is going to cause us a nightmare. It's going to cause us big problems, right? So
Yeah.
just because there's the flow-on effect of all the mistakes. It's like, why does everyone do gas steal? Well, everyone does gas steal, not because it's like the best thing. It's just because it fucks up people's build order, and then they make heaps of mistakes on their own, you know. So so that's really cool. Is like anytime you hit a point like that where there is any interruption or harassment or obstacle, and you don't immediately kind of have like a little set play for it, we can kind of appreciate how many details there were to even that little thing, right? But if we can react with that, because this is like a pretty consistent thing. Oh, someone blocked my third, right? Especially if it's like a pylon block on your natural. These are things it's like, oh, okay, send drone to third, bring down another drone in case they cancel the pylon, keep building, you know, drones in an overlord, whatever the thing is, right? But just mapping out those details, it gives us these little set plays where we can keep our rhythm and momentum rather than kind of ending up being on this like reactive back foot state where it's very easy to lose control of a StarCraft game if we let ourselves go there.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome, dude. All right, so back to you taking the reins, you know, walk us through kind of wherever. Let's find the next point that we can focus on or next micro points, whatever it is.
A new queen has emerged.
Yeah, I love this just because like it's like I only did this a couple of games and immediately my creep spread has just been phenomenal. I did forget to spread the creep in the main there. That kind of sucks though.
That's all right. Yeah, I would say the creep out the front, the natural, is like way more important. So
Yeah.
the creep in the main, it's only really for like some drops and stuff later on. So I would actually say if you had another tumor at the front spreading forwards as well right now, definitely more important. Because getting like 3 tumors out, like so then you can have like 1 out the front top, 1 outside the third, and 1 going south as well. So like 1 top, 1 middle, 1 south sort of thing, and it would actually be like even smoother.
Yeah. I forgot to rally towards my third this game as well, which was horrid. Had to manually transfer them, like pretty much all 16.
Not too bad, not too bad. So your opponent didn't really harass with their Hellions at all till now, but we can notice that your queen count was very low this game. You're only at 6 queens at 5 minutes 20. Now, obviously, we're not going to be hitting pro gamer benchmarks, but normally we are meant to be at least kind of 7 queens by 5 minutes, I guess is one way of thinking it. 440 probably. We were only just got our 6th queen out right now.
Yeah.
So definitely something where like a big Hellbat timing or something, you know, Hellbat Marauder, Hellbat Banshee, these sort of things can cause you a lot of trouble. Because remember, you're doing the mineral version. So you're doing a version where your defense relies on, well, no banelings, no roaches coming to support. You also didn't have any Zerglings out to be a net. So if the Hellions run past the queens, you also didn't have any overlords in the proper position. So you have an overlord outside his base, but you don't have any early warning ring out front your natural, your third, your fourth. You got 1 overlord outside your natural, 1 outside your third, but not very far out. Yeah, they could have been much further out, even early on, because overlords have massive vision, and you need that vision as well so that you can move to intercept these Hellions. So that's definitely something that's really big.
Yeah, that was yeah. That's something I've been meaning to ask you about is the lings for the Hellions. Like, is it just because I'm late to drones? I think yeah, it might just be because I'm late to drones here. Would I already have lings out? Yeah, 'cause it could be 4:30 that I would be done. I'd have all my yeah. I'm just super late to drones this game because I was focusing on the queens.
So it's totally fine to not saturate your third minerals by 4:30. We're gonna kind of aim for that, but generally speaking, so I mean, if your opponent's not active with Hellions, you could be this greedy, right? This is a nice little reactive thing you could do. So go back a little bit. Did you know he had Hellions before he darted in here? Because I think he was just sitting at home.
No, I really need to start scouting after my third is natural is fully saturated.
Yeah. So you can see
'Cause
the lacking Overlord vision, by the way, right? And you're like putting one smack bang in the middle, which is cute, but really just that ring would be great. So the thing is, if you're not sure if it's Hellions or not, and like your Overlord's kind of sitting outside your opponent's base rather than sitting on the pillar. So in that case, well, you should have, if you're putting your Overlord there at the front, that should have been to sacrifice, to check what they're doing, right? Or it should have been sitting on the
what
pillar.
it's for.
Okay, yeah. So it's always one of those two. It's like it sees everything on the pillar or it sacrifices. And you would have seen the factor on the reactor and you would have been like, yeah, it's normal. And the thing is, if we can just play it the same way to be safe as if it's normal every game. So normally, depending on how pro we want to go, there should be a timing to build Zerglings to stop the run by. So you should have like 4 or 6 Zerglings earlier in the game. And then you want to go up to somewhere between a minimum of 14 Zerglings, a maximum of 20 Zerglings. And you want to do that, let's just say about 4 minutes to 4:30, somewhere in that range. We want to build those Zerglings. If you get a lot of people diving Hellions really early, every game, you might be like, oh, it's like 350, bam, start extra Zerglings, right? Because like everyone on the ladder is diving 4 Hellions really early. Let's just have those Zerglings ready, right? In a meta where no one's hitting until this timing, like way later, 5:30 or later, oh yeah, we could 4 minutes 30. Oh, okay, let's build those Zerglings with our next lava that's available. Like that sort of thing. Does that make sense?
Okay, so yeah, so just just like halfway saturated, even like not saturated on the third base, go to like the 14-20 lings if you see the reactor.
Let's go look at that point in the game so you can really visualize. Like, where are you at that point in this game? If you go back to 4 minutes and we watch like 4 minutes to 4:30. So go back another little bit. So in terms of 4 minutes for them, and your base was delayed, you left on gas the whole time. You never pulled off there, right? So everything was a little delayed this game. So everything's like slightly off. And that's part of why like your queens normally start at 2 base saturated, right? You start building more queens nonstop.
Yeah.
You're only starting at 4 minutes. Normally that starts at like 3:40 or something. That's just the flow-on effect of like the mess up early on and they're not pulling off gas, right? So that's part of why things are a little slow this game. But yeah, if we watch from here, so let's just play it. Go to like 4:30 or something because you're obviously a little delayed this game. Yeah, we could think of it as like 8 drones on the third, maybe something like that. Is it maybe a nice way for you to just think of it as standard? That's not a bad way to think of it.
Yeah, because if it's like 4:30, you should be fully saturated. That's like 4 minutes is like what 9 larvae.
Yeah. So 8 drones on the third go up to 16 Zerglings, something like that. 16 to 20 lings. A lot of people like to overbuild their lings, overdo the safety. So if you like that, go for it. But I'm just gonna say 16 to 20 lings, something like that. Just pick a number. And your queens absolutely should always be intercepting any Hellion dive before it gets in there, right? There'll be mistakes we make, but if we think of that Overlord Ring of Vision could be way further out front, just gives you so much more warning, man. And then you got more time to pull those queens and that sort of stuff. So, awesome.
Queen has emerged.
So that's good because now you know you'd have some Zerglings, and they usually, if you got that vision out front, if we see these Hellions come in.
Is there a reason I'm not using my lava right now? None. And then yeah, see, so yeah, I would have been fine here if those 10 or so larvae I just spent on drones for lings. I would have been fine here.
Yeah, and even if your queens were just in front of the Hellions when they came in, if you just reacted a little bit quicker, your queens would have been doing a lot more damage to them beforehand. I think stacking the drones, don't know if it really helped us there at all. because they were already on top of you, I think in that scenario, you honestly just leave the drones mining. I know it feels shit, but stacking them to get them out of there doesn't help either. So it's actually better to just go, that's all right, just focus on the queens and whatnot. But yeah, that's really big, is just kind of like making sure we have that idea of, okay, the Zerglings there. You really don't need those if your opponent's not going the Hellions, right? Because it's only like a frontal attack that we have to worry about, right? So it's like, oh, it's a 2-on-1 or this or that. And obviously, just building up to 16 lings isn't going to defend you from a 2-on-1, right? You need to build quite a few more Zerglings if they're coming at you with Stim Marines that early. But there's no earlier pressure. There's no like, oh, 2 Hellions and a Reaper picking off creep, or there's no Liberator diving into your mineral line, that sort of stuff. So it does give you a bit of a smoother flow in some regards. Okay, so yeah, you know, you.
Oh my god, the screen is just jumping around crazy. The frames are so fantastic.
The what? Sorry.
My frames are just mint.
Oh no. What is it when you go Control Alt F?
Control Alt.
In the
F.
top left, it should have your FPS counter.
Let's just do it on the keyboard. Nah, it's not showing up. Probably because of the core or something.
Even on your left alt?
Yeah.
Oh, you've remapped both alts, have you? Or are you using the core light?
No, I use the full core.
Oh,
but I
weird.
have, it's probably because I have the Alt Shift control on my mouse.
Oh. I totally forgot you have such a weird setup. My brain just broke a little bit.
It's probably something like between like 15 and 30.
Okay, no worries. Well, we're gonna have to make the most of it. Definitely, there's there's an argument behind killing people with roaches in the early game, and using roaches rather than Ling Pain potentially, because Ling Pain definitely lags things a bit, because there's just so many units on the map and the screen. But anyways, we could already see things are getting a little bit out of control this game, aren't they?
Yeah, like he's like 40 supply ahead of me, and I'm Zerg. That's just horrible. I got 3K, 1.5K.
I mean, you would be ahead in supply if you were spending your money, yeah. But why are we not able to spend our money? So like, what's going on?
So I have a bunch of larvae, and I am.
Well, that actually
really...
all just popped, but yeah, you're not spending it. That is true. So, and then you just built 14 Zerglings, right? But you had like 30 lava. So why did we only spend 7 of that? So maybe you're not following macro cycles, right? Whenever you're not spending, check.
No more
are you doing? Yeah, actually check that you're doing clean macro cycles is one of the biggest things you can do. It's huge. So that's if you're mismacroing in a game, it's like, go find why aren't those macro cycles happening? You know, what's going on?
Yeah, let's go back to like.
I mean, you start banking resources, far earlier. So I mean, we can check, because it seems like you're injecting your 3 hatches pretty well, but we'll have to check. So
normally I will have another one on 4th as well.
So you're already floating 2,000 minerals at this point. You got to go to the root of the problem, my friend. You got to go back earlier.
Oh, is it the Hellions? God damn it.
Not god damn it. Good. If you can identify that the Hellions threw you off, that's great. But you do already have 600 minerals at this point.
And what's going on?
And go back slightly. I want you to go back like 20 seconds. What happened with this macro cycle? Watch on regular speed. On just faster speed. Yeah. So what's happening here? You've got 9 lava. Are we hitting tight macro cycles? Are we injecting afterwards? Let's kind of see what we're actually doing. So we're moving queens to the front. We're spreading creep. We've just brought all of our queens to the front. Now, and then you started a lair in the main. But that means there's not going to be a queen in the main for the rest of this game. Because you injected, but you didn't build a new queen. So you can't pull a queen out of your main if you're starting a lair, because that's not getting replaced. So pause already, well before these Hellions. You know, these Hellions are a distraction, but feels like we're already maybe entering the chaos zone, right? So this is awesome. This is great. This is the best thing you can find is your own Oh, disorganization. That's perfect. Because this was disorganization before your opponent got in there. So go back to like five minutes and let's look at what you're doing there when like before this layer started. Because things are already kind of going off the handle just a little bit. The Hellions come in and they add a lot more chaos. But you already set up the tinder. You know, you already got like the kindling there. You're starting to strike some matches. So let's watch here. So we've got 9 lava chilling. I think we just did an inject cycle. Could we watch those injects go down? Go back another 20 seconds. So let's watch this macro cycle. Let's kind of see, are you actually hitting a macro cycle here? Or are we doing a lot of things and not that efficiently? Let's take a look.
Didn't inject the third.
Yeah. And we didn't spend our lava, more importantly. So what did you do? What were you distracted by? Watch that again. This is you got to train yourself to do this. StarCraft happens so fast. We're often not even conscious of what we're doing in game. Goes for high level players as well. So like, try to really watch. Okay, so you've just built some drones and overlords, right? So maybe you feel like you've already been spending your stuff, right? But that drones and overlords, that was a bonus production cycle, right? That was like a little bonus in between the macro cycles. That's bonus points. That does not ever supersede us spending all this lava right after it's come out, right? Now, you are slightly supply blocked, right, as well. But that's about to clear up. You've already got some overlords on the way. So
yeah,
watch through this. Talk us through it. Let's investigate this.
Oh, that's what I was doing. Oh, okay, I remember. It's because I didn't. Yeah, it's because I didn't rally to the third base. I was manually transferring from the natural to the third base. I forgot to rally.
Okay. Wait. What? Can you show us when you do that rally then?
So here's some of it right there.
But you didn't actually change the rally point when you did that.
No, I set the rally point for the next Zerglings. That's what I did. Yeah, see, that's what I did. They're the Zerglings drones.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Always use your rally points. Yeah. What are we doing? That's crazy. It's crazy talk. Always set your rally point. So that's huge. So that's one thing. But then also, it's like, hey, if you're in the middle of injecting and then you're like, oh, my base is oversaturated, and then you pulled into it, but then you completely forgot about what you were doing. So that there is a really bad prioritization. It doesn't matter unless you have a Colossus that's been dropped in a mineral line and is frying your drones. You don't ever interrupt a macro cycle. That's against the rules. But that's what you just did there. And then you do end up building the drones and the overlords a little later. But guess what? You've done that right before new injects pop. So then you go and you do an inject, but then you don't have queens on your other hatcheries because you've pulled them all off. And we've got 8 more lavas popped out, but because you're not doing a macro cycle anymore, not on time anyway, you're doing it 20 seconds later because you let yourself get distracted. Now you've got more lava sitting there, which maybe you would have remembered, but obviously he runs in, right, and distracts you. And then you build 4 drones, but you had 11 lava. So why'd we only build 4? Probably because we're panicking and we're just tapping keys frantically right now. You're trying to keep up with what you're doing. And I'm really impressed you went a layer and evo chambers in the midst of this, by the way. There is some and you're taking gases. The fact that you're trying to keep track of your build order is awesome. You've made so much progress. This is great. It's just there's these little pieces of disorganization in there, as well as our opponent catching us off, us not having the lings to make that defense earlier. That's what's making this so much harder than it needs to be, right? So this is awesome. This is so valuable. This is huge. So what are some rules? I'm going to write the notes here. Let me know. What do you want me to write down as some notes for yourself? So to describe this problem or how to fix it. So what are some of the problems here?
Tiny like stress mistakes. Like this again is like spreading, doing the different creep tumors with the queens at the start. Like this is like one of the first times I was doing that, as well as I don't know.
And that's all, yeah, and because your third got blocked, right? So there's a higher preponderance of mistakes in these sort of games. These are things that happen, but still, you know, and we'll get better at it with experience. But what makes us get way better with experience in these scenarios is also just going, okay, but what are the specific problems? You know, because it's easy to look at those and fall into the realm of, you know, this was harder than my normal situation. But the best thing we can do instead is say, cool, yes, it was. This was a harder situation than normal. You're doing a new thing. Your opponent fucked you up with the Hellions. Also, you know, you forgot to change your rally point. You're doing creep tumors different. But let's actually focus on those details that we just went through. So remember, you forgot to change your rally point to your third. Now your third was a bit later. But that's just one of those things where it's like, okay, cool. Like, is that a one-off mistake? Maybe. But then you noticed it and you didn't fix it. You transferred workers, and only on the second time you did it. So it's like, okay, just because things are a little different, okay, let's just remember. Let's just kind of reinforce that point, okay? Make sure we fix the rally point at the same time as transferring workers, right? And I would say that's like almost even higher priorities. Change the rally. Because otherwise you could like box a bunch of workers, move them there, change the rally. But if you change the rally like 10 seconds later or something, or a few seconds later, it's like there's already another 10 extra drones on your natural that you didn't need or something, right? If they were still popping. It's just one of those things. But the important thing is, as long as we just make sure that's synced up, it's not going to happen that often. But it will happen. It will happen, especially when you're going, say, third base to fourth base to fifth base. Your early game's so consistent normally, you're not used to doing it then, right? Because it's like, oh, I've already transfer right as I get to 16 or whatever, right? So that's one thing. But what's the other thing there is, okay, so that got messed up. The other thing is...
Pulled the queen down from the natural.
Oh, from the main to the natural?
From the main to the front.
So don't pull queen from main when starting lair, right?
Yeah.
Got to leave her up there. The other queens, yeah, but once we start the lair, no. What's the other thing? It is, remember, don't ever interrupt a macro cycle. Because that's what you did. You saw you had 20 drones on your natural and you went red number, or 23 or 24. I think it was like 8 workers you built in the first one. So you were like, and you kind of freaked out. Next time you see 24 drones on red oversaturated, that's cool. Always finish your macro cycle. You want to add that to your shopping list, your list of priorities, the moment you're done the macro cycle.
Okay.
Because the moment you interrupted that macro cycle, we did that, and then we kind of went back and did it. But because we were kind of hodgepodging, we were like straddling 2 tasks, you fucked up both tasks. You didn't spend your lava on the macro cycle, and then on the transferring the workers, you didn't change the rally point. So always just let your macro cycles finish is really important there. And that makes things so much cleaner as a player, man.
I just wrote that down. Just never interrupt macro cycle with huge stars around it. Because I feel like I'm pretty good macro-wise, but I feel like not always things like that specific thing. Obviously, I'm pretty sure that's the first time that's ever happened. But yeah, like I feel like I would definitely do that all the time.
It's actually huge because just trying to build those habits. Otherwise, it's so easy to like get amped up and excited and distracted by all the things going on. It's kind of like the classic like vibe thing. It's like, don't look at the fight, keep macroing, right? You know what he's taught in his Bronze to GM series. You know, just keep macroing, right? Because people just get so distracted by everything. You know, it's something I'm trying to remind myself in Age of Empires, especially because it's an even slower game. I'm like, just get the right production count, focus on the resource balance. Don't focus on microing some units because it really doesn't matter. Number 1, because I'm bad. Number 2, because it's not StarCraft as well. So the micro doesn't matter nearly as much. But it's just like, as a fundamental layer, it's like, you know, that has to just be there. And we want it to be sacrosanct. We want it to be sacred and beautiful and, you know, this untouchable thing. But there's one last thing that we can really touch on here, because you never spent your money. At 6 minutes, you got 2,000 minerals. You've defended. You never recover from this. Maybe you do it 10 minutes in the game, but at 8 minutes, 9 minutes, you're at like 2,000, 3,000, getting close to 4,000 minerals. So what did we miss at this stage of the game that would have stopped that happening? Obviously, we've already talked about the queen.
Hatcheries.
Yeah, we've talked about the queen in the main, so we already know that's one, and you do fix that eventually. So other than that, extra hatchery. So what would you be doing if you were to take over control of the game right now? Just tell me. So I'm going to write down here. If we took control of game 6:15 after dealing with Hellions, what would our priorities be? I'm assuming you've just done a macro cycle. I'm just going to say macro cycle first because that's always the first thing, right? Which I think you've basically done. Yep.
4th base, 2, maybe even 3 macro hatcheries, because I know at this point, 2, maybe even 3 macro hatcheries. Upgrades.
How about
here
we say
are...
2 macro hatcheries and a 5th base? So we say 4th, 5th,
and a 5th, 4th, 5th.
Yeah, just so you've got an extra hatchery in case one dies, right? I think if you're thinking of grabbing a third macro hatch, why not just take a 5th base? Because it works as a macro hatchery, right?
Yeah, okay. And then upgrades. And then start. Oh, and then saturate. Probably saturate if we already did the macro cycle. So I guess the gases would be already saturated. So yeah,
Well,
I'd start building
well,
drones.
that's not really part of a macro cycle unless you're manually rallying the drones there as you build them, which I guess is something you like to do.
It's like a 50-50. Sometimes I rally each base to its own mineral line and go back and saturate the gases. Sometimes I'll do it manually. I'm trying to get more into the rally each base to its own mineral line.
It's nice to do that because it's a bit more. You can quickly do that and come back and add them to the gas when you've got the APM, right? If they're harassing you, so that's a nice way to do it. But okay, so you'd saturate your gases. But yeah, already just getting those hatcheries down. If you did that right now, that would be huge. What would be, and a big thing, of course, is when those finish, right? Just a little point from me. When those hatcheries finish,
mass inject,
yeah. Because if we got those down now, got the mass injects going, you'd be looking at like such a dominating mid game of Massling Bane, I think. Okay. Just looking at the state right here, 615. What's something else which we really haven't ramped up to match? Sorry?
Hydroden?
I don't think we need a Hydroden. You have 2 Zerglings right now. So, yeah, you could start it, but is that high on your priority list? You haven't even started 1-1 or Bane Speed yet. So Hydras are more of a support unit. They're not like the first thing, right, in your army. Yeah. Obviously, once you get there, that'd be nice. But I don't think we even need to think about that. Because honestly, it's all just about getting up your 5-6 hatcheries, pumping out Ling Bane for now, getting the upgrades for them. So that's kind of nice. But your Overlord production hasn't ramped up. And it also didn't in the previous stage. It was a little chaotic this opening this game. So we're going to see this problem get amplified. So I think what's really good as well, general theory, you here were trying a new thing and your opponent harassed you at the start by blocking your 3rd and then with the Hellions. So you had a bunch of problems that made this game harder than normal. It's easy to look at this and go, well, this normally wouldn't happen because I wouldn't have me doing a new thing and them do a harassment I haven't seen. And that's absolutely correct, right? It is true. It is true. But what's even more Chad of a move is if you go, but this actually is going to highlight my problems really well, right? Like it's gonna put me into a more chaotic zone. And if I can come up with like systems for dealing with that, it's going to scale into so many different hard situations in the game, dealing with like all sorts of cheeses and different pushes and adapting on the fly to different scenarios. So this is like such a fantastic game for that sort of flow because it's going to just teach us so much about, oh, okay, if I'm fucking thrown off because my hatch got blocked and stuff, okay, well, number one, we've come up with a thing about how to deal with the hatch get blocked. We've got a set play for that. Okay, awesome. Great practice. But also then on, it's like, okay, so what if the game does go to shit? With this build order, I think we're really prioritizing like, okay, one of the most important things is still getting all those hatcheries down, ramping up our Overlord production, because you're behind on your macro right now, right? So everything's not as clean. So you're going to need to build, normally at this point you might build 6 Overlords at once. I would be down with you building 9 Overlords right now. You know, like hatcheries take priority, but you're on 3 base mineral income. You've got huge mineral income. So I'm not even exaggerating, 9 Overlords at once, right? Just because our production's ramping up and we need to start batching things up like crazy and we need to make sure we don't get supply blocked for a little while. So earlier we were like in the midst of the chaos. We were like, build 2 Overlords, build 1 Overlord, build 2 Overlords at a few points in this game, even while supply blocked. And even then I was like, I want to see 5 Overlords at once, you know, like I want to see a few extra there. But obviously it's hard to think of that. But I think it's more like we're kind of linking chaotic shit situation, more Overlords at once. Because we're kind of planning for us to be more disorganized and be more busy and more behind on our macro. So chaotic situation, more Overlords. So 9 Overlords at once at this point, as crazy as that sounds. Get all the hatcheries down, and that changes your situation drastically. So now you've looked at that, 615. Okay, so now compare it, just to get some context. When did those hatcheries go down in this game? Let's just fast forward through and find it. It's probably like a minute or two later. even 1 minute is so massive for all that production, right? So that was 6:15. We see one hatch go down, then another hatch, then a macro hatch. Yeah, it was about maybe 45 seconds later on most of these, thereabouts. One thing I noticed, though, is your hatcheries seem to go down at different times in the main. Can we go back to when you put those down? I'm not sure if you just maybe were using shift when you placed them, and that's why like workers just mined an extra 5 minerals, and that's why they went out at different timings. Can you just check when the actual order went out? Because I don't know why there's a 9-second difference between those two.
We were at 6:30-ish.
Yeah, and that way we can just kind of see how you actually gave the order. Because it's easy in these chaotic situations to just select one drone, build a hatch, then go, select one drone, build a hatch. And it looks like that's what you did here. Yeah, you built a hatch, then you started 1-1, and then you're like, oh, wait, I still have money. You're building 2 drones and rallying them to your main there because you're like obsessing over your numbers a little bit too much as well.
Yeah, I do that for sure.
The fact that you paused there to do that, I really disliked. And then we a completely separate action build the 4th base. So that should have been one action, right? This is classic. I'm behind, game's messy. I'm now going to play 6 times worse. You just did in 3 different actions what should have been 1, right? Okay. And you're still doing a lot mechanically, but the organization isn't there. So hats off, you kept the urgency in this game. I can see you're still spreading creep. You're still trying to multitask. Just, oh, dude, a little bit of organization. Like, just now we've got that set play of, box the drones in the main, build hatch.
Much. Sorry. The creep not spreading right here was so annoying.
Oh, yeah.
that took like 20 seconds out of my mental.
And because you didn't spread creep down the bottom and then the middle properly at first, like you went multiple tumors up the top, right? So yeah, with that on this map, just remember, just those 2 tumors, you just try to spread behind the gas to the watchtower and up the very top. And the other tumors have to cover the other side of it because that no creep hallway right there in between the fans on both sides of the map is bloody annoying.
Yeah.
But yeah, awesome, dude. So like we can already see here, like, you are hitting the urgency side so well. So friggin' hats off for that. Our weak spot is the organization in the hard positions in this sort of game, right? Let's keep those priorities. We've got like the Zerglings that we're always going to build if the opponent has Hellions on the map at all now that are going to help back us up. We're going to shuffle our Overlords forward. Man, there's a lot of things we've actually talked about here that we need to kind of steadily internalize, right? And you know what's really cool, dude? Once you get more used to your creep tumor stuff, or you don't even spread the tumor in the main, like I said, but you actually just spread that at the front instead, is better. Like I would rather you bring that queen to the front after its first inject and spread it there. You see them block your 3rd. You just send another drone to your other base while your Zerglings just go across the map to attack your opponent's command center. And even if you lose all 4 Zerglings, their Reaper has to micro like a madman to catch the Zerglings and save the SCV on their natural. And then your drone can just like kill the SCV, your other drone builds a hatchery, and suddenly it's like, oh, he's the one who's stressing out and making mistakes with his opening. And you're just like, you've literally forgotten about those Zerglings. You just clicked them across the map, right? So you've given yourself like, oh, I'm just going to inject, I'm going to keep doing my stuff. And this whole early game is so much smoother.
Yeah. Typically after like a lot of the times at my rank, I will kill the Reaper pretty easily, and immediately after I'll send them across the map.
Awesome. I think, yeah. With that scenario, though, if it's blocking your 3rd, just go straight across the map. Ignore that bad boy.
Yeah, as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because if they're blocking your 3rd base with it, it's like, don't go to them. They want you to come and be annoyed and distracted by it. But you're bypassing the problem if we do that reaction that we mapped out. Sendlings to their natural, take the other base with a different drone, while your other drone just hides on the extractor. Easy peasy. So we can see here, mid-game, you didn't set up link spotters very well. You got some on the bases, but not many on the map or the watchtowers, right? You don't have any on the closest push paths on the ramps or anything. And you also didn't queue up your injects for... I don't know if you ever queued up your injects. You started doing a regular inject on the 4th, but you never dumped energy on it and your macro hatches.
Nah, yeah.
You were idling masses of lava. So it felt like your rhythm was gone. Because we can go back to maybe 8 minutes and we can kind of go, hey, wait a second, your hatcheries are finishing up. You know, We saw you split a few Zerglings out, but you didn't really get good map control. So we can kind of say, hey, what were we trying to do at this stage of the game? And it's so important at this stage to keep up your macro cycles. Look at your production tab. You're building 1 Overlord right now. What's going on? You have 3,500 minerals in the bank. We should be out of 200 for sure, right?
Okay.
We should just be like, and every inject cycle, we hold down the key. Like at this point in the game, you don't really want to be doing any producing between the cycles because you've got 120 APM. You don't have 300 APM. And we've got a lot of things to manage. So like all you should be doing is like inject, hold down Overlord and Zergling key, spread creep, make Bane speed, rally bases over to your 4th, which they're not rallied to yet. They should have already been rallied there ahead of time. And yeah, and then set lings up. Like watch when you set these lings up on the map. Think about exactly, I want you to visualize where would we put those Zerglings? Because on this map, you actually need to not put them on the watchtowers, but on these just kind of paths on either side of the rocks in the middle is where the opponent can move through. Obviously, the watchtowers are important as well, but you don't really have any vision of what's going on at this point. And we do a really noob move here, which is we make 22 slow Banelings without having Bane speed. Oh, you do have Bane speed, actually. Never mind. It's still way too many Banelings, though. A pure Baneling army is not that great. Obviously, if you're massing Zerglings and you get up to like 80 Zerglings now, that's great. But you never want to be on pure Baneling, just because, you know.
Mineral field depleted.
For sure.
Mutation complete.
So you can see, okay, you sent a Ling into the 3rd. So you sent a Ling into each of his bases. So you went for the expansions, but you didn't get the map control. So that is definitely an issue. Because you killed his Hellions earlier, so you could have had full map vision for a long time in this game. I think that's all, honestly. The cherry on top of the missing macro pie, though. So I think we've already touched on enough important things. If you want to just fast forward through to finish the game, just so we can see where it goes. But I imagine this is just a story of us never getting on top of our macro.
Is your video fine, or do you see what I see?
I see it stuttering like motherfucking crazy, dude.
Yeah, okay.
I think that's because your computer's struggling with it, but yeah. I imagine that's your laptop can't handle fast forwarding so bad, and right now it's trying to play catch up. This is fucking weird, man.
Yeah.
We're back on normal speed, but it's stuttering like crazy still. Hey, okay, and there we go. It looks like your computer caught up, I guess.
It's
Laptop
rough.
lag.
It's rough. Oh yeah.
GG's. Okay, our alarm's going off. We've only got like 8 minutes left.
It's been an hour. Oh my god.
Yeah, there was so many little points. So just remember, in terms of theory, things that carry across, right? Learning to fish, I'm not giving you a fish. We're teaching you how to fish, right? First one, that spanner in the works, man. Anytime's no matter how small, oh, he's blocking me base. Oh shit, what do I do there? Map it out the way we did. Just map it out the way we did there, and come up with exact set sequence of actions.
Yeah.
Spend your money. You never got on top of your money spending at any point in this game. So no matter what's going on, get back to clean macro cycles and getting those hatcheries up and then injecting those hatcheries, right? We want those 2 macro hatches to be lava fountains, right? You queue up 5 injects on each of those, you would have had lava for days. Those macro cycles, you never got back into the proper macro cycle rhythm. So I don't know if you just weren't holding the key down enough, but there was many points in this game. The moment things went off book, you needed to just take a breath and go, follow the macro cycle. Because what was happening is you'd be like, I have 35 lava, and you'd build 20 Zerglings. You'd spend 10 of that lava, and then you'd go do other things. And I don't think you were realizing you weren't spending all your lava. So when you get to that big macro stage, take your time with your macro a little bit more, and I think you would have had way more success. So I think those are some of the biggest things, right? Is look for those things that throw you off. Define a set response so you can do it next time. That's huge. That's game changing, right? But then also the thing that gives you the comeback potential is finding rhythm in the chaos. And I don't want to understate this. I cannot overstate this. if you spent your money this game, you totally could have won this game. But you never spent your money. And that was over a 4-minute period, right?
Yeah.
So that is something where no matter how much the game has gone to shit, and you're like, fucking shit's going wrong. And I've had this experience myself, especially playing new RTSs. If you're not playing super, super expert players, there is always more of a chance to come back than you realize if you can just organize yourself. Because 95% of every RTS player base past the early game has no fucking idea what they're doing. Like, nobody knows what they're doing. I talk to so many friends that play RTS games. Some people in the chat. People in the chat right now, guys, let us know. Do you guys have any idea what you're doing past the first 5 minutes of any RTS game you guys play? Because I'm pretty sure you don't. And the thing is, if you can just have that framework of like, get those hatches injecting, hit the macro cycle every 30 seconds, and then do all the, I don't know what's happening, figure shit out on the fly in between that, like, it's a game changer in this matchup especially.
Sweet. Yeah, that makes sense. That was insightful. That was a lot better than the last one.
It takes a little bit to get into us actually getting into the meat and potatoes. So I think it's really good to go through, and there's always these certain things that kind of carry over the other matchups, but some of it's very matchup specific as well, right? Like the Hellions and making sure that Overlord rings far out, Queen's out front, all that sort of stuff. And I think this makes a huge difference. So I think for the next session, now that we've got this mindset, think of moments where you go, I don't know what the fuck's happening right now, dude. Just when you're playing ladder, after your ladder games, just think of that. When did I not know what the fuck was... You know what? There's usually certain units that are very easy to clue onto. Adept harass. The PROTOSS just keeps shading these 2 adepts from God knows where into your bases, and they keep killing all these drones and messing everything up. And there's 2 things you can improve in that scenario, right? So what is one of those things that you can improve? One of those things is, okay, scouting, how do we find them, so on. But then once the problem's there, okay, I've been surprised by harassment. It's thrown me off into the chaos zone. How well did I get back into my macro rhythm after dealing with that? And the answer is usually pretty fucking bad for most of us. So we kind of look at it and go, okay, once I hit that zone, and you look at the replay and you identify all of the moments where, guess what? You absolutely abandoned your macro cycle. And I'm saying this without even seeing this game, because I do the same thing. Other people do the same thing. The moment you're in a chaos zone and you panic, right, all the organization goes out the window. So looking at those games is so useful, because you said, I went into the chaos zone in this game at this point. These units threw me off, blah, blah, blah. Okay, next time in the chaos zone, let's try and remind myself, take a deep breath, and just focus on trying to get that organization back. Just the moment we get rid of those depths, okay, take a deep breath to a full macro cycle. And this might take slowing yourself down in your play a little bit, just to be a bit more organized, less frantic. And it'll feel like, oh God, I need to do things faster, don't I? And I think you're already there. You're already playing with a high level of urgency. So I already look at this and I'm like, oh, I don't need to push you on the urgency side. We need to push you on the organization side, okay? And if we go too far in that direction, maybe we'll bring back the urgency, be like, click faster, bro, click faster, you know? But for now, it's more like, hey, take a deep breath and do it a bit more methodically in terms of the macro. And like, I'm already really impressed with the fact you're spreading creep. You're still trying to remember structures, even in the midst of like a Hellion run by. So like, you're definitely kind of grasping this, like, let's keep many things in our mind at once and have this like more expansive view. So I'm really impressed with that, dude. Keep it up.
Great. Thank you.